To thine own self be true, Shakespeare. Know thyself, the ancient Greeks. This is the art of being Dar. All right, cut that. Dar is half Iranian, half American white boy, born in Tehran. Yes, Iran. He's moved over 80 times. He escaped the Iranian Revolution with literally the clothes on his back. And we're not lying, he even found himself in a cult.
I've been involved in a number of cults, both as a leader and a follower. You have more fun as a follower, but make more money as a leader.
And through every crazy thing that's happened, against insane odds, he's been succeeding in life and in Hollywood for almost 30 years. People with boring lives have boring stories. Nothing boring here. This is the art of being Dar.
So I like talking about the human experience, which is
keep going. No, I just turned on record right in the middle of Savio laying it down. I was just telling Savio just before I pressed record. Sorry, everyone. Welcome to the show. That a lot of people get on this show, and for whatever reason, it's frequently business people. They always want to start getting into corporate speak, and I do this for this person and that group of people. And I don't know, but for me, I mean, I'm a consumer also, and I'm a customer of the marketplace. I don't want to hear that. It's so rehearsed in a bad way and not real and not authentic. And on this show, you know, I want to find and explore and discuss the intersection of art and life. And I think that's where the rubber meets the road and everything, you know? So, Savio, why don't you let everybody know a little bit about yourself and how we met?
Sure. So my
thanks for being here, by the way.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dar, for inviting me. I really appreciate the opportunity to, tell my truth, right? Speak my truth. So hi, everyone. My name is Savio P. Clemente. I'm a board certified wellness coach. I'm a #1 best-selling author, which the book just launched a few weeks ago. Thank you. I am a syndicated columnist for a few publications. I'm also a podcaster, and I am also a stage 3 cancer survivor. I mostly coach cancer survivors in terms of sort of overcoming the confusion, gaining the clarity with their lives in mind, body, and spirit. It's something I've chosen to do because after experiencing cancer and going through it and becoming a survivor, I realized a lot of stuff happens in between the spaces from survivorship to the now. And I wanted to address that with a lot of people because I myself have always questioned the human experience and have really challenged it on many fronts. And this is really what sparks me every day.
You've always challenged the human experience. What does that mean when you say that?
Yeah, it's very odd and people might think it's strange, but I really had a hard time living in the physical body. It sounds really strange, but I was very good at like emotions, very good at being curious, using my head and thinking and brainstorming, but actually living the human experience, living in a physical body was very kind of challenging for me. So I tried many ways. I would have I would work out. I would have deep tissue, roll things. I tried so many things to dance. I tried so many things to get into the physical body. And honestly, I don't think it was until I had cancer, which is about 7 years ago, that I really, truly appreciated living in the physical because my life was challenged. I had stage 3 non-Hodgkin's diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. At the time when I got diagnosed, the medical director looked at me because she knew my background. I told her I'm mostly holistic minded. I was eating organic foods, working out, meditating, all the stuff. And I'm like, I don't even take aspirin. And she looked at me and she's like, I'm telling you right now, I know you probably have some concerns about chemo. But if you do not start this within the next couple of days, you might not be here tomorrow. And I looked at her and I was like, are you serious? She's like, yeah. And so I really stopped and thought to myself, well, I think my physical body is really failing me really badly now. And even though I didn't really, I respected my body, but I didn't really live into my body. And cancer was a way for it to say to me, what do you want to do about this? And I made a decision to do an integrative approach. I did chemo and I did various other integrative modalities. And I'm here to tell the story.
Amazing. Okay. So just for me, when you say you had trouble living in the physical body, was that the living? That's what I thought I heard. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean you had trouble living in the physical body? Because you're living in the physical body. It's unavoidable.
Yeah.
Were you just not comfortable in your body?
Yeah, I think part of it has to do with sexual identity. In college, I sort of questioned my sexual identity, and that was really a big deal. I didn't really do the frivolous thing that most people do, which is like have random sex and experiment. I was very, I was not very attached to that sort of feeling and sensation. And so I really took stock in things that made me happy, like art and creativity and learning and curiosity and exploring and traveling it's very strange. It's probably the first time I'm really speaking about it candidly like this, but
I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. I'm still curious. What I mean. So it sounds like it was more than just like feeling uncoordinated or awkward. It had more to do with your sexual identity, which you just said, but it was more than even that.
It was. So my background is I'm Asian Indian, but my parents are from Goa, India, which was ruled by the Portuguese. So there was some identity in terms of ethnicity identity that I was kind of toiling with or trying to figure out. Just even to get my body feeling comfortable, I would have like social anxiety. I was friends with a lot of people, different, popular, non-popular, whatever that even means. And I just would have social anxiety. I would kind of feel to some degree ostracized from most people. I didn't really feel like I could connect with people on a physical level. I could connect with them on other levels, but not really physically. I just really had a hard time. And as an adult, I can really look back and say that that was the truth. So,
no one would probably believe this, but since you opened the door, I'm going to walk through it. I frequently feel uncomfortable growing up, especially not so much now, but it's always there. It's never gone away. I don't know that I can say I ever felt uncomfortable in my body, but I definitely felt uncomfortable in social situations. And I think a large part of that was because in my family, we moved a lot. And then even after I moved out of, my parents' home and lived on my own, I still continued to move a lot. So I was always the new person with the strange name that no one could pronounce. And as you have the same thing, you have a little bit more melanin to your skin than I do. And so I understand that whole dynamic. And when I was younger, just FYI, you brought this up, but this is the part. This is why I have this show. This is what I love about it. I used to make a drawing, and I called it. I didn't have a name for it, but now I call it Tension Man or Nervous Man or whatever. And it's maybe I can share the screen. I have to find it while you're talking, or maybe not. Might not be the easiest thing, but it's basically just squiggles, tiny squiggles of a square-faced image with rectangular eyes that are very tight, like earthquake or heartbeat. Now heartbeats are too flowing, but more like earthquake kind of stuff, or Anyway, and I used to draw that thing over and over and over with a little tiny like butthole mouth, like that, or just a straight line. Yeah. Just these intensely, like so much energy going into the paper from the pen or the pencil. And I realized after the fact, after I moved through those awkward stages and then through my teens and then through, my 20s and then all the nonsense that happened after that and all the great stuff, that was an expression of how I felt inside all the time. The other one I used to draw was, I don't know if maybe a lot of people won't remember, I guess it came from World War II. I didn't know this, but there was this little image that always said Kilroy was here. And it was an oval shaped head and it had a couple of sprouts of hair on top and two big eyes and little hands on either side looking over a wall with a big nose. And I used to draw that. Don't know why. But those doodles and those drawings were a through line in my life up until, I don't know, probably I graduated high school. And that's how it manifested for me. If I was in a public setting, I don't know, did you ever get this way? I would clench my jaws all the time.
No, I would just be really sweaty and really like super vigilant and super like reclusive in the sense that I would be cordial, but I wouldn't be outgoing and people would actually think people would say to me, "Are you having fun?" Because I guess they would read my body language and it didn't seem like I was having fun. And I would have to
look like you want to die.
Yeah. But, and then I think after a while, I realized I have to show people that I'm interested. Right. So I think I would pretend that I would be interested because then I don't want that kind of commentary. Right. So I think I created a protective barrier as well. At some point, I'd probably say that probably happened in high school. And then high school, I took a moniker of like, trying to like, I was the guy who was like really fashionable and I made sure I wore clothes that like, it's, I'm not proud of it. I didn't do anything wrong, but I did take on a persona, and the persona was this guy has money and he's dressing really well. And I kind of live vicariously through that. It was a way for me to sort of show some, like have that ability to have connection with people, but yet I could still kind of be me. So just looking back, I mean, I'm someone who's super observant. I'm super conscious about my own life, and I'm super subjective and objective about my own life. But I definitely did that for sure. Absolutely.
No shame in that. Everybody does it. Yeah. Everybody does it. Okay. We won't belabor that, but that's interesting. You made me think about that. Mm-hmm. So we met, and I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah. We met because you were so kind to contribute to my interview series on resilience. So I have a couple with Authority Magazine, Thrive Global. I did a couple of series with BuzzFeed as well, which was Rising Through Resilience, How to Be Resilient During Turbulent Times. It was a stupendous, I think overall that particular interview series got over 350 responses. And you were kind enough to, like, you really put it out there, which I really loved. And I love the fact that you spoke with resilience and telling your story, because a lot of people spoke, not that I'm chastising anyone, but they spoke about resilience from what they learned from a textbook or from what they learned from a course or their training, which is fine. But I love that yours really peppered in your, like your history, right? Like how you came to be and your background. So yeah, it was great.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it helps if you can draw parallels to what you're talking about. Otherwise, it becomes a dry recitation. Like I complained about people who want to get interviewed with businesses. It's dusty, it's old, it doesn't have any juice, doesn't have any hook for someone to hang on to and kind of, take a hold of what's being said. So yeah, I did that interview, and I did let it all hang out. I thought, what the hell, why not do it? And here we are now. So out of that, you also told everybody that you are a best-selling author. I know I'm privy to inside information that just happened. I don't even think it's been 3 weeks. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's been about 3.5 weeks, almost 4 weeks. It launched officially, launched on February 22nd, 2022. And I woke up the next morning and my book promotions team told me I hit bestsellers list in 3 categories: books, hardcover books, that is, ebooks, and also number 1 new release as well. For me, honestly, it was really the fact that it landed on people and it spoke to the heart. So the book is called I Survived Cancer. Here is How I Did It. In the series, I interviewed over 175 cancer survivors. The book talks about 35 of those survivors, and including my own story.
35 stories about cancer. And what's the title of the book?
I Survived Cancer, and Here is How I Did It.
Number 1. Okay. And what categories did you land number 1 in?
Chemotherapy, cancer, obviously, oncology. I landed, actually, there was really technically 4, but the way that Amazon does it, they have the sales recorded every hour on the hour. So at one point it was 4, but honestly, to me, when I woke up the next morning, they told me this, I didn't realize what it actually meant. I just was happy that it landed with people, but they said it's actually considered another credential. So not only is an author credential, but now you're considered a best-selling author credential. So
people love to get that. Yeah.
For me, it just allows the access to be further magnified. That's really what I'm happy about. The fact that because of this, the algorithm now favors the book, and it will show you if you type in select keywords. So that's what I'm happy about, and I'm glad it's doing what it's supposed to do. So
bravo. So when you found out you had cancer, it was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. What type again?
Yeah, so it's called diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, and it's non-Hodgkin's form of it. So it's DLBCL. Is the official terminology of it. And it's interesting because they kept asking, is there anyone in your family? I probed my mom and my dad, even though sometimes they're a bit absent-minded. They're like, there's really no one we know of, even like generationally from their own lineage that had this blood cancer. So it just happened.
It's a blood cancer. Okay.
It is a blood cancer, yeah.
That's nasty business. Okay.
It is.
How did you, what made you get to the hospital? How did you notice something was not right in your physical body that you didn't feel comfortable in?
100%. So it's interesting because I was seeing a naturopath for about 7 or 8 years. Every year I would go, he would do blood work on me. He would tell me what vitamins to take, tell me what diet I would take. I really trusted him. And then I just started noticing, like at night, I would have like deep night sweats. Like my bed would be like drenched with sweat. Now I sweat a lot. Oh. I'm also someone of color and I'm Indian, so I'm hairy. So that's combination is just, you just live with it, right? So I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe it's the weather, or maybe it's just something I ate or whatever. And then my stomach started getting distended bit by bit. At that point, the first onset of it, I took a trip with a friend. We went to London and Amsterdam and noticed my bed sheets at night at the hotel was also drenched. But I didn't think much of it. Came back, saw my naturopath, and he goes, Savio, something is wrong. He's like, it could be like 3 or 4 things at this moment. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, you need to go and seek out mainstream medicine and see what they have to say. So I decided to see a doctor. He suggested to see, get a sonogram. Got a sonogram. They would not let me out of the office for about an hour and a half. After an hour and a half, I kept asking them, what are you talking about? You're not letting me go for an hour and a half. They said, sir, you need to call a family member and help them pick you up. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, you need to go to the hospital right now. I'm like, what? Like, yeah. So I go to the hospital. Someone checks me literally within an hour. I'm ushered in and they check me into the 5th floor. That night, I overhear nurses around my bedside talking about transferring me to the 7th floor. And then I heard someone say the 7th floor is the cancer floor. So I had an inkling and an idea that it might be cancer at that moment in time. And then sure enough, the next morning I got transferred to the 7th floor. And then they put a nephrostomy tube in me because my stomach was getting big. Sorry, I forgot to mention that my stomach was getting bigger and bigger. I'm a male. I'm genetically a cis male, a gendered male. And so I knew I wasn't pregnant. And so they had to put a nephrostomy tube in me, take out about 5 liters of fluid. I was bedridden for about a week. I was bedridden.
How much fluid?
About 5 liters of fluid in total. I actually have pictures and evidence of what they took out from me because I was very diligent about that. They did a bone marrow aspiration, thankfully did not go into my brain. And then they did some with the nephrostomy procedure, the doctor came, he whispered in my ear, he goes, it's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which meant I don't know what any of that actually, I mean, I know lymphoma is a blood cancer. At the time,
you didn't know what the hell it meant. Yeah, right.
And so that's what it was. I was bedridden for a week because I had this nephrostomy tube. And then the last week, they told me 3 days before, the medical director looked at me deadpan in the face and she goes, listen, you're really sick. It's stage 3. You might not be here tomorrow. So I really strongly urge you start chemo. They kept touting this drug called Rituxan. They said it's like a godsend and it's really activates and accelerates all the healing. So I did what anybody else would do. I did what Savio does best, which is I went within. I looked within and I just was quiet. That's the great thing about a hospital. You have 2 things. You have Wi-Fi and you have silence. I had Wi-Fi and silence. And I just sought deep within. And I remember I heard a couple of things in my head. I heard one, find the middle way. And then the scene from the movie, and you probably have seen the movie, The Little Buddha with Keanu Reeves. There's a scene in the movie where Keanu Reeves as Siddhartha, which is, the Buddha, was meditating. He was doing it for a while. He left all his earthly possessions. And then he overheard these two people on a fishing boat or a boat. And one of them was saying, if you play the instrument too much, it will snap. But if you leave it too taut, it won't play. And that vision just came into my head. And then I remember hearing was to know thyself is to heal thyself. So I said, okay, I will do the chemo thing, but I'm also going to do integrated modality, and I'm going to find answers to this. And so I made my recovery a mission. I literally left everything to the side, and every day was the day of a new opportunity for healing.
Interesting. I can't help but notice the clarity of thought you had when it was time to get clarity. And then you made a very strong and very definite decision that everything else was going to go to the side and you were going to get healed by hook or by crook.
Yeah.
I had the same thing happen when I realized that I'd been through a cult and that I'd suffered all kinds of post-traumatic stress disorder, blah, 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 and brainwashing. And there was the same kind of moment with myself. I was sitting in a kitchen by myself. It was quiet. And I just sat there and listened to myself. And it took a few minutes for the noise to calm down. And then it was like, doesn't matter what else happens in this world, can't live like this anymore. You need to put all your energy into getting better. And you need to examine every avenue. And you'll know which is good for you and which is not good for you. Not good or bad, but for me. So that's interesting. You had the same type of thing.
I did. It was like I visualized like a laser beam, focused laser beam. A laser beam is only as potent if you focus on the target.
I do the same thing. That's so wild. I've never said it like a laser beam, but when I make up my mind to do something or to be something or to say something, everything comes down like that, like a laser. I don't lose vision like blinders, but I'm very, and I have the ability to just, knock away everything that's in my path. Hopefully not too harshly. Well, wow, blood cancer. That's crazy. So would you tell people what the nephrostomy bag is or the tube? What that means?
Yeah, so they basically tied it to a bit of my liver and spleen, and basically it was all centered around my abdomen, and so they had to distend that particular liquid. It was like some like reddish, waterish type of situation. I remember they kept coming back and forth. I felt bad. So I really believe energy for energy. So even though I was like sick and ill, I was like super nice to everybody because I believe that you get what you give. And so as long as my brain's working, and my brain was working fine, I was going to give positively of myself. So they kind of weren't really like, they weren't irritated that they had to keep on doing that because it's part of their job, but they also like I remember the cafeteria woman like gave me extra food. And by the way, Sundays, for some strange reason, this is the best food. It was like the best food. I treated like Club Med, and someone was laughing at me like, only you would like think of like going through cancer as like Club Med, but yeah, it was like Club Med.
That's hilarious. Wow, you're leaving a lot of little nuggets there. Attitude is important. I'm not going to get into my whole hospital experiences, but anytime I've been in the hospital, I do it all the time anyway. If someone's waiting on me, if someone's serving me, I always defer to them and always give them respect, where so many people just don't. Yeah. And then when you're in the hospital, you just said it very nicely. Hey, they're taking care of you, and it is their job, and there's no need to get shitty with them at all, even if you feel badly. They're just doing their job. They're doing the best they can, and they're trying to help you out. And when you extend yourself that way, some pretty amazing things can happen. Some subtle and some not so subtle, more profound. So, okay. So once they got everything settled that way and they let you out of the hospital, and how long were you in the hospital total?
So I was in the hospital total for 15 days, but I say 2 weeks, but it was 15 days.
15 days. That's really not that long.
No, it's not that long, but I did lose, I think, 14 pounds. Every day I lost a pound.
So it's an amazing diet. Yeah. Okay.
Amazing. My mom looked at me. She's like, we got to correct this like stat. We have to correct the situation stat. And I was like, okay.
Oh, so Goan mothers are the same as Jewish mothers and Iranian mothers. Have a little something to eat.
Oh, please. Right. Like it's not even, and then it's like foods from like childhood. So it's like nostalgic foods, right? And it's like rich and potent and spicy, and it's good food, but it's just not food that I was eating like, regularly. So yeah.
I'm in. Anytime you want to like invite, I'll come. I'm happy to. So you immediately started chemo. Did you start it? Well, you can't start it in the hospital, or maybe you did.
I did. Yeah. Okay. It was 3 days before I left. So like day 12 is when they did the first round. And they said to me, the 2 instructions were, if you feel like a sudden, like burst of energy and it's too much for you to bear, like ring the bell. I'm like, okay, thanks.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I don't know what that means. I'm just listening to them and I'm just like nodding. And then they said to me, if you do, well, this was a serious one. If you do feel like your heart's racing, ring the bell. So I was very cognizant of the fact that my heart could be racing, right? Like something could go wrong. Fortunately for me, nothing went wrong at least. And then I left the hospital, and then so the way the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, or at least the treatment I got, was called RCHOP, was 6 rounds every 3 weeks. And so I had those 6 rounds every 3 weeks. And in between those 3 weeks, I did some integrative modalities. I researched the hell out of stuff. I asked friends of mine. I looked online. I set up Google alerts. I read medical journals. I mean, there was really no stone left unturned. I made cancer my mission. And I wanted to figure out for myself, how do I heal the physical, which is at this point failing me, because I know my spiritual and my soul and my mental and my, emotional bodies were all pretty much focused. Right. And so I just kind of made a promise to myself that I would find a way.
That's kind of how it has to be, There's a big difference. I've talked to a lot of people who have fallen ill, whether it be cancer or some other, life-threatening issue. And a lot of people it's interesting. Some don't even acknowledge or address the issue, even after being told by their doctor that they need to go to a hospital and go to westernized medicine, your holistic doctor, they, especially men, they just put it off, and then 2 weeks later, they're dead. Or the others will get it and it's complaining every step of the way, so much so that you don't even want to be near them. And God help you if you're the caregiver or the spouse, you just, it's terrible. It's really trying. And unless the person can find the clarity of thought and the commitment to getting better, I'm not saying you're not going to make it, but you certainly make it much harder than it needs to be. So that's interesting that you did. And it's interesting to me because it's a through line. Okay, switching gears. Were you already a journalist before this occurred? Was that, okay, so no, you weren't.
I was not. So the way my sort of career worked was my background is IT. I was very good at it. I designed websites. I did project management. I designed mobile apps. And I was always good at it, but I wasn't really fulfilled. Cancer came into my life at the time when I was doing all this as well. I made a promise to myself. It sounds corny, but I said, if I hit the 5-year remission mark, which is never a guarantee, it's just a barometer for the fact that if I hit the 5-year remission mark, it's not a guarantee that cancer won't come back. It's just a barometer that they use to say that the evidence of disease might not reoccur. That's just their speak.
The 5-year mark is a mark. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I said, if I hit that 5-year mark, which I did, I'm in about 7.5 years now, that I would do something with it. I didn't know what that was. My friends thought they're like, what are you going to do with it? And I'm like, I have no idea. And so this was obviously before COVID. And I sort of stumbled or sort of made my way, took one step in front of the other and figured out that I wanted to be a coach. I became board certified. I did the coursework for that. I took the 4-hour test and all that stuff. And I became ICF certified. It means nothing to most people, but it's really big in the coaching world because I wanted to make sure I had the education and training that if I ever went in front of someone, I would understand. And then I niched down. I'm like, who do I want to serve? I want to serve people like myself who've been through something horrible like cancer and who might come out the other side, but they just don't know how to come out of the other side and what that actually means for their life. And there's something really powerful. And I think it's always been prevalent in my life, this idea of life and death. Not so much like dying, death, but more of like living to the highest that you can. And my life has been a series of challenges. I'm okay with saying it that is because that is the truth. But I'm also someone who really loves the fact that I had those because it shaped and forged how I think, how I feel, how I view others, what my relationships are like, and the constant need that I have to always better and improve myself. It's something that really speaks to me. And I really felt like that's what I wanted to do. And then what happened is that I started putting out, my work and everything online. And then I became a syndicated columnist. I had a couple of, columns. And now I
like how you just say that so nonchalantly. I became a syndicated columnist.
Syndicated columnist. And now I've been to several events in the US and abroad where I get invited to cover the events. I just came back from South by Southwest. I was supposed to physically go to the Computer Electronics Show in Vegas, but because of the spike with COVID cases, I ended up attending virtually. I've been to the Global Wellness Summit in Boston. I was flown because so my beats are mainly wellness, technology, and travel. And so I was flown to Cancun, Mexico to cover a travel conference, which was really exciting for me because I love travel personally, and to cover travel is like a double highlight. So this is good.
You've landed on your feet.
I've tried. People look at me, they're like, you make it seem so easy. It's not easy. And I'm very honest about it not being easy. But what I do every day is I do try. And I think that's the key, is to just try.
I mean, that's all you can do, man. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other. It's a good message to keep repeating. I don't care if, younger, the younger kids just, and I guess I was this way too. I sound like an old man, so I'm trying to really think about how I can say this, but nothing comes easily. Nothing. Even the things that do seemingly come easy, if one doesn't put energy and effort into it to maintain it and then to expand upon it and add more value, it's going to go away. It'll piss away, and you just got to take it one step at a time. Now, I'm teasing you because you say I became a syndicated columnist. There are a lot of steps to that.
Yeah.
You from IT, I mean, no offense, probably one of the more boring.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to me, the most interesting part of being in IT, I've got a cousin who's in IT. He may hear this and think I'm an asshole. I'm not talking about you, Narvin, but he would go to these, businesses, corporations, and, effectively be a fly on the wall and hear all kinds of conversations. That would be interesting. To use as blackmail against them to pay me more money. Only partially kidding. But then you make almost a 180 and you get into journalism. So in a couple of sentences, where did you start in your journalistic career that took you to, I don't know if you can do it in 2 sentences or not, to getting syndicated?
I think it's just writing from a very, authentic perspective. I didn't want to write stories about the way I pitched the cancer series to the editor was, I'm a cancer survivor. I coach cancer survivors. I want to do something about survivors. And he looked at me, he's like, And so he actually thought of the actual name of the series. I Survived Cancer. Here is how he did. So I have to give credit because for me, I probably would have made it seem a little more, a little not as direct. And it just took a life of its own. And then from that, I interviewed maybe like 100 or so doctors, which is my second series was 5 things you should know about cancer from a doctor's perspective. And then the third one, I was like, see, for me, I was following the customer journey. So what I was thinking to myself is, okay, so you find out you have cancer, right? You find out you have cancer. Okay, what are you going to do? Then you rely on doctors to give you the expertise that you need. Then you need to like dig deep within, find the bounce back within you to find resilience. And so I'm following a trajectory of the experience, of my own experience and what others experience that I know of. And it's really about just telling the stories. And so my main outlet is LinkedIn. I love using it. I feel like it's a proper social media network for the type of articles and stories that I like to do, because I feel like it gets the respect that it deserves, as opposed to it just being dancing on TikTok or great imagery on Instagram or Facebook, someone complaining about politics.
It's certainly more business oriented. Yeah, true. Yeah. So you targeted editors on LinkedIn that you would like to work for.
Yeah.
And one of them bit and said, clarified, it was like he gave you a writing note, a writing lesson. And how to approach it, just in the way he answered back.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it was the fact that I was just so focused on what my subject matters would be, right? What my areas. So
you had a good angle. Let's be honest. You had a great angle, and you had experience in it. So those two things right there would catch my attention as a producer. Like, okay, there's something there. There's some substance to the story. And then it just becomes about what is the angle for the story, and then what is your writing style? Like what's your voice?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Interesting. So you got out of that, scared, got the shit scared out of you, got the blood scared out of you, to be quite literal. Survived the chemo, which is no fun. Got a girlfriend who just finished up and saw a picture of her yesterday. Her hair is starting to grow back. Her eyebrows have grown back, and I just adore her. She's the sweetest thing in the world. Love her. And I owe her a phone call. But so that's a lot. And then you really, so this happened around 2015, if my math is correct.
No. So, no. So just for clarification purposes. So I only started all this in 2019 in terms of.
But I'm talking about your illness. The cancer diagnosis.
Yeah. So the cancer is 2014 officially. So it was July 2014 and when I got diagnosed.
Okay. So July 2014, and within 5 years, you had a new career.
Yeah.
You're coaching, you're writing, and in three different areas.
And podcasting as well.
And you threw podcasting, yeah. So you are out of your mind, like I am. Okay. I like it though. No, I like it. Yeah, it's all crazy until someone gets it done.
Yeah.
And you never know what's going to stick, right? You never know. Or who you're going to end up talking to, or what it's going to go like. All right. So you've done all this, and now you're writing. You're a best-selling author. You are a journalist. You work with Thrive Authority. You do some BuzzFeed as well. And you do personal coaching, and you've got your podcast.
Yeah.
What out of those do you enjoy the most?
I would say coaching. There's something generative and something beautiful and generative about having someone trust first of all, having someone trust the process, but also allowing your expertise to be literally a guide for that experience. Because and this is a written rule. It's not my rule. It's a written. As a coach, we will never know the person sitting in front of us more than they know themselves. They know themselves more than we. We only are there to kind of assist the process so that they discover more of who they are. That's really the bottom line. And that's what real coaching is. Real coaching is not telling someone what to do. Real coaching is allowing them to find the answer so that they can then keep it, mold it, shape it, let it forge, let it sink in, let it develop, let it grow. That's what real coaching is. So I wanted to make sure that I got the best of the best training and education in that, because I would have never, if you asked me this like before cancer, I would have been laughed at you, because I would see things like life coach and I would be like I would think to myself, my naive brain back then was like, how can someone be a life coach? Like they didn't even figure out their own life. And then I learned slowly through this that coaching is really about being a few steps in front of your client. It's not about figuring it all, because no one can figure it all. But yeah, if you asked me 5-6 years ago if I was going to be a coach, I probably would have said no. So I made sure though that I don't market myself as a life coach. I am a wellness coach, because that's my focus is in the area wellness. So
cool. Okay. Yeah. I'm laughing because I've spent a lot of money getting coached. I'm an old athlete, plus, it helps to have out another pair of eyes looking at your situation, another brain looking at your situation. And there are a lot of bad coaches out there. But listen, everybody finds their way one way or the other, and the bad coaching helps you get to the good coaching. So,
100%.
yeah. Who's to say? So you're doing something you never thought you'd ever do, and you enjoy it more than anything else you've ever done.
Yes. I mean, I really do love interviewing and telling stories and writing articles. I'm not
clearly.
Yeah, I do love it. I mean, at one point I went against the LinkedIn algorithm, which basically states do not post more than 2 or 3 a day. I literally was posting 5 articles a day because I had the stories that I had to tell. I was like, Itzy. So Itzy's my editor. I love him to death. He's the editor-in-chief of Authority Magazine. Itzy, I can't not tell these stories. I gotta blast it out on my socials. And so he's like, do what you need to do. And so I did what I needed to do. And so, yeah.
I know Itzy. Nice man. We haven't met yet, but I know him. Did you get penalized with LinkedIn? Did they shut you down or something?
No, it's not really. Well, they say that if you post more, the algorithm works against you, meaning that more people won't see it. But I'll be truthfully honest with you. My follower and my connection count has, I think has 20x over the course of 6 months of
Actually, I was going to say, I think that's a lot of BS. They really want you to engage.
Each article that I get is anywhere from 500 to thousands of views. And so, and then I was supposed to do, so for my book launch, I was going to do a virtual book launch, and I spoke to this guy really produces book launches online. This is what he does. Okay. And he's like, you have to apply to go live on LinkedIn. And I'm like, I think I already got that access. He's like, what do you mean you have to apply? I'm like, I think I did remember seeing something like that. So they automatically gave me access. I didn't even ask for it. So obviously a few things. It's vetted. The information's vetted. And then I'm putting out all these stories. So I think it actually worked in my favor rather than working against me.
I see. So you already unwittingly had taken a step ahead before you ever realized it was going to be useful to you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's something I'm just not the best at. Getting on Twitter or LinkedIn or what's the other one? Instagram, Facebook. I just take the piss on Facebook, Sometimes sometimes it's political, sometimes it's serious, sometimes it's a joke, most times it's a joke. But as far as having the content to put out, it's almost a job itself, managing a social network, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever. Now, you said something to me before we got started. I don't think, we weren't recording yet. You just went to South by Southwest, was last week or the week before?
Last week.
Okay. Last week. All right. And you went in person.
I went in person. I was invited to cover, so I covered 4 days. So I attended.
In the pandemic, and you're in remission. I'm sorry. That's how my mind works.
You know what?
What the fuck is really going on in his brain?
I am.
Because you're high risk, my friend.
I am. I'm super careful. I was wearing masks continuously. The city itself, there was probably 20% mask compliance. I was someone who was wearing masks constantly. I saw about 20% of adherents doing the same. The other 80% just didn't, which is their prerogative, I guess. But beyond that, I'm also careful about social distancing. I also, to some degree, feel protected enough to go. Not that I'm protected from it, but I'm protected enough to go because not only am I boosted, I'm double boosted, that sort of thing. I also wanted to cover it. I really wanted to. So I had a couple of great interviews with some really VPs of diversity and inclusion. I had a couple of interviews. They're going to be coming out. The woman there's a female executive from Warner Media, which was really excited about getting her input. Nice. And then another person from a actual subdivision category company that works with these different media companies and whatnot to cultivate, DEI, which is diversity, equity and inclusion. I also had a really good interview, or I'm going to have a really good interview with someone who's building, and it's controversial because some people believe that we need to fix our problems here on Earth, but building space stations in space. It's called Worldview, and he is the CEO of Worldview. And if people read my bio online, they'll find out that I wanted to be an astronaut when I was young. I was always been fascinated with space since I was a little boy. And I want to be an astronaut. And then the 1984 Challenger explosion, I think it was 84, 85, happened. 84. And I think I changed my mind. I think it was like 8 or 9 or something years old. And I was like, oh, okay.
I'm out.
Yeah, I could probably die here. So I think I changed course. And then, it was great. And then I had, one of my favorite authors were there. It was just great to be around that energy and to realize that Austin's a city that's finding itself. I felt it was good, but it was also it felt a little wonky. And I don't know if that's post-pandemic wonky or just the city itself wonky. But it was good. You can ask me anything else.
Oh, well, it's refreshing to hear you be honest about Austin. I've not been to Austin yet. I've learned in my life that when someone tries to sell you something and it's almost the same phraseology, like it's a party line and it's said repeatedly, there's a lot of bullshit there. And you need to flip it on its head and turn it at an angle, and you might begin to get at the truth. It sounds like that's the most accurate assessment, wonky. It is Texas after all. 80% of the attendees did not follow social distancing or masking. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a pandemic, which is not going to go anywhere for at least another 8 years. I am not a medical doctor, nor am I an epidemiologist, nor do I specialize in any study of infectious diseases or respiratorily transmitted illnesses. But I do, like this crazy SOB on the other end of this screen here, I do a lot of research and a lot of reading, and I do reach out to people who are experts in those fields, and I do read their white papers, and I do read their not their dissertations, but their published works. And I'm that guy. I'll pull out the dictionary, and I'll pull out the medical dictionary, and I'll pull out the law dictionary until I understand what it is I'm reading. And not smart. Anyway, sorry, but I had to say that. Social distance, wear a KN95 mask for the love of all that's holy, whatever that is to you, and you'll get through this. Because it's not about getting COVID. No, I was boosted, I was vaccinated, I'm okay. I just got a little scratchy throat. We still don't know what the long-term effects of this virus are. And not unlike cancer, it is going to wreak havoc on our healthcare system. Probably for the next, I'd say 30 years, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Anyway, and personally, I just lost my beloved aunt about 3.5, 4 weeks ago. Don't do that. You're gonna make me cry. She was not in good health, but she was double vaccinated. She had not gotten the booster. She lived in Iran, and I'm assuming her caretaker didn't realize they were carrying it. And anyway, it's not a joke. And when it hits home, sometimes people like me start to rant like I just did. Stay safe, everybody, because together we're stronger. Okay, so South by Southwest, that was your first time going?
First time going South by Southwest, yeah.
Was it everything you hoped for and more?
So Texas was cold on day one. So I was invited to, so Brene Brown has a special. She's one of my favorite authors. She had a special. She's going to have a special on HBO at the end of the month. So she was there speaking, doing a little book presentation with two other authors themselves. One is Priya Parker and her husband, and talking about her new book, which is Atlas of the Heart. So that was great, but they made us wait outside, and it was friggin' cold, like probably like 30 degrees Fahrenheit cold. And fortunately, I was smart enough to have a hoodie, but we were like, I was like, what is this? Like, this is crazy.
Who's the genius who says, let's go to Texas when it's going to be 30 degrees?
I don't know.
And stand outside at South by Anyway. Okay.
And then it got warmer progressively, thankfully, after day 3. Day 2 was a little chilly too. And yeah, it was definitely entertaining. Great takeaways. One of them is, and I'm not here telling people what to do, but the metaverse, NFTs, that whole space is going to happen. It's happening. But it's like literally going to be a part of life, because there are these movers and shakers. They're not the people who are mid-level. They're like the executives making the decision for it to trickle down. And once that happens, it's going to trickle down. And it just is. I was invited to these houses, they're called, where they showed you activations for NFTs and how the metaverse works. And it's a real thing. And I'm, someone like myself who's actually been very curious about the human experience and living life and just seeing trends and fads and technology in general. I adopted crypto in 2017. I knew at some point it just needed further adoption in order for it to be big. I know that this is the interest in the metaverse is a direct result of COVID, in the sense that people want an alternate way of being and doing and seeing, and the metaverse offers them that ability to do that.
Okay, I'm going to afford myself the geek of the IT world, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. Okay, so my wife and I went out to brunch about 3 weeks ago with a friend of ours, with friends of ours, husband and wife, and the husband happens to be a federal judge, and he says, "Hey, Dar, do you know about the metaverse?" I'm like, not really, And he proceeds, he goes, "Oh my God. He's into it. He was telling me, like, he loves, one of his outlets is music. And so I guess that he told me that you have the ability to literally be on stage with any band and see the audience from their perspective, the crowd in a stadium, right? And see, like he said, I was standing on stage and Bono is singing right in my ear, right next to my ear. And I turn to my left and there's the Edge. And I look out and there's the whole audience. And they said, I did it with Bruce Springsteen. I did it with the Dead. I did it with Bowie. I did it with, like, wow. And he said the same thing you did. He goes, this thing has really taken off because of COVID, because people, that was amazing. That's a side note. People really did not handle having to kind of hunker down for a little bit. They acted like the world was come to an end and their life was never going to be the same. And that's a whole other conversation. But people, learn how to be with yourself, learn how to sit with yourself, and learn how to enjoy your own company. God, that's like mission critical. So the metaverse, what in the metaverse, what's your thing? His is music.
My whole thing with the metaverse is affording the ability to create an experience. So what I found really interesting is that in the physical material world, right, especially with race and identity and all these things are just, they're just so corporeal, right? They're like right in your face. In the metaverse, no one really cares about that. You are a character exploring the world. And when people tell me, so I have a really good mentor of mine, his name is Peter Shankman. He was the guy who did Help a Reporter Out. It's like a maven, big speaker. He has purchased property that mimics property in the physical material world in the metaverse. He's actually purchased places and destinations. He's actually done it.
What? I don't understand.
So, for example, there's a clone in the metaverse of Manhattan. So he's purchased a couple of streets or a couple of buildings in that clone version in the metaverse of Manhattan. And so he can claim ownership of that if someone was to build, let's say, a building on that street in the metaverse. He can actually charge them rent. He can, whatever he wants to do, if that's what he wants to do, but he's actually purchased these things. What I find fascinating with the metaverse is the ability to just live, to just be in that situation, in that world, and not have the context of who you are and the difference that people always see. It's almost like there's sameness in a good way. So it's trying to find itself, but I think it's rooted in the right place. And I'm just excited to see where it goes, and hearing these panels and these people speak of this and entering these houses with the activations. I myself was even, I was always interested in this, but I was like even far more interested because they made it seem so exceptionally provocative and exceptionally intriguing, and to me, exceptionally worth my time and energy. I think all this boils down to time and energy. And to me, I don't know, that's exciting.
So, okay, when you're saying you went to these houses, you put on the goggles, and then there's something you're hooked up to. I have known nothing about this.
100%. So you probably know the work of Banksy, famous. Yeah. So they had a Banksy house, and they had a VR Banksy experience. Literally your VR Metaverse Banksy experience. They had actual physical things. They had NFTs that you could create and grab off of it. So that was exciting. And so they created, quote unquote, these houses to experience these technically invigorating spaces, basically.
So let's say you make an NFT at Banksy's, out of Banksy's work, or just out of the space that he has.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Peter Shankman, you purchase, I don't know, you purchase Christopher Street, right? It sounds like they're going to have to set up a legal system for the metaverse.
100%. Just like people who have purchased space, who have purchased property in space. You've heard of this. People have purchased property in space, which is kind of weird because the space doesn't belong to you. It's considered universal space and energy and universal, formatting, I guess. So I don't know how that's working out, but of course, absolutely, this is all going to have to kind of shake itself out. But the thing is, I think it's almost like sort of the idea of cat and mouse. The first one to the actual.
Sure.
Is the one.
Sure. Everyone's going there with God. Anyway, I just, it's amazing. People, they want to spend money on space and traveling to space and creating metaverses. But the only verse that you really need to know is the universe within yourself first, and then everything else falls into place. I can't even believe I just said that out loud, but that's how I feel. And it's the truth.
Yep.
It also happens to be the truth. I'm not the only one who said that. You said it in your own way, and many, many, many wise people before us have too. But so the takeaway from that, and I want to get into NFTs in a second, because that just sounds like fakakta to me, but it's because I'll explain why. So the major players in the entertainment business are going all in on this.
Not even entertainment, fashion. Tons of fashion.
I call fashion entertainment.
Okay.
Let's be honest.
Food. Now you probably wonder yourself, how's food getting to NFT?
You took the words out of my
food.
mouth.
Oh yeah, food's getting into it. Yeah, absolutely, because it's creating a sensorial thirst and want for it, right? It's creating this need and want to then go
take
and
off
grab
the goggles and go actually eat food. Fuck me, this is crazy. Okay, all right. Okay, I feel like a dinosaur right now. I'm going to have to check it out. NFTs. I do not understand why anyone would give any energy to that.
Okay, so I'm going to just break it down really quickly and really simply.
Okay.
So NFTs is non-fungible token. So something that's fungible is in the real material world. Something that's non-fungible is in the digital world. So you're probably thinking to yourself, why would I want to buy an NFT of an art piece, right? When I can either purchase it, well, technically, if it's an original, you can't really purchase it. You can purchase copies. Or why am I going to spend an NFT, right? The amount, because some of it's not cheap. Why can't I just get a digital copy, like a JPEG or anything like that? It's because with the JPEG, you can make several copies of it, but there is no way to have transparency. There's no way to dictate and orientate and authorize that was version 1 of, let's say you created 20 NFTs. The whole idea of an NFT is it validates the fact that you have direct ownership and you have direct connection to that said digital, whether it's art or whatever the case may be. And that's important because, and I'm going to repeat what I heard on one of the panels because it was brilliant what she said. I loved it. She basically said, in a world in which we live in, where they're trying to erase art, they're trying to erase gender expression, when they're trying to erase history, like things happening in historical record, this is needed because it's immutable. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be altered. It cannot be erased. And this is important. And I loved it because it made me think to myself, that's why NFTs are important. That's the selling point. It's not about I'm collecting an NFT because it's fun to do. I'm collecting an NFT because it validates that I care about that. I'm collecting an NFT because it validates that I want that. And I am the originator of one of the pieces of that. It basically puts a stamp on the human expression and on the human experience. And that's what I loved what she said. And I was like, wow, it's just so beautifully and simplistically said.
So immortality and expression.
Yeah.
Okay. I can lean into both of those. I still think it's a load of shit that it can't be destroyed. I think that's just disingenuous. Okay. If it can be created, it can be destroyed. But I love the area that she was coming from with that message. Yeah. And I understand. Now that I understand. I think it's misguided for people to jump into it. But I'll say this real quickly. And look, dude, just one person's opinion, and it's not really well formed, but from where I'm sitting now, looking back over history, because that teaches us, and mankind has this nasty habit of repeating the same mistakes. There was something during, I think it was the 1700s in England, the South Seas Shipping Company, I believe is what it was called. And it was one of the largest Ponzi schemes. It was the largest Ponzi scheme in the world up until Ponzi came along and then Bernie Madoff came along. And now there's a couple that was arrested in Brooklyn a couple of months ago for the largest cryptocurrency scam. And it is dwarfed everything I've just mentioned. The South Seas scam was so pronounced that the gentleman came up basically with an investment strategy so that he could raise money to keep his business afloat. Quickly, it became, I'm not going to break it down. You can read it up for yourself. Some of the greatest minds in the world, some of the most prestigious, well-educated people, including the King of England at the time, Sir Isaac Newton, and many others, put everything they had into it and lost everything. I feel the same thing is at play with NFTs, the metaverse, and cryptocurrency. Having said that, I don't know the metaverse and I don't know NFT well enough to say anything else except to give that disclaimer. I've invested a little bit in cryptocurrency, but the whole thing just has the same whiff of it's just a house of cards and people are like lemmings and like to follow. And if they have social validation, social proof, Savio's doing it. Mark Zuckerberg likes it. They're doing food, but I'm absolutely ready and willing and able to be wrong about all of it. But I love that aspect of what it could do for identity and the human experience. That's fascinating to me because the rest of it, it's just another form of creation. But the other thing is like, that's where the rubber meets the road.
And I can't argue with that. I completely 100% agree with you. But I have to think back to probably one of the first pieces of truth that I learned. It's like this idea of money. Money is not, it's just an energy. It's only as powerful as the energy or the consciousness behind it. Just like fire, right? You use fire for good, or you could burn a building down. And I think when it comes to this, there has to be an ethical role play in here. And of course, you're going to have people who just want to just bilk people for money and cheat. And that's happened throughout history. It's going to happen. It is happening. It will happen. But I think the onus is always on the person. You have to have a strong viewpoint and will and a strong desire to try to listen to what is actually right. I teach this a lot. When I teach this, but I talk about this with my coaching, the head, heart, and gut. Science and there's validated research behind this, that there is an energy of consciousness with those three areas of our bodies. And if we really, really dig deep, and that takes work, it's not easy, you can actually navigate this world safer. But of course, you're going to have those people. I mean, I've follow some people on Instagram on purpose to see what they're talking about. And this guy's constantly, I like the guy. I think he's a nice guy, but he's always showing his like $350,000 car wherever he's going. He's doing it on purpose. He's creating that insatiable desire to like mimic the world, right? And then he's saying, come to my course or come to my event or come to my,
He's a hustle. He's a hustle. Yeah. I don't even know who he is. He's just a hustler. Yeah, I know. You get your ass burned in a cult and go through all that. Yeah, you're look, I can still be taken. In fact, I've still got a gentleman as we speak right now who's trying to hustle me. It's too fantastic to get into.
Okay.
I enjoy characters. I enjoy good stories, even when I know it's a complete con, and that it's utter bullshit. I just like to see where it's going to go and what avenues and angles they try. It's entertaining to me until it's not anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, when people start flashing pictures of their car and name dropping who they were with, it's like, okay, all right, I got it. Yeah. Well, I think I think that what happens remains to be seen. And again, I'm willing to be wrong. I know what I know. I know what I don't know. But the big catch, the biggest piece of that diagram is what I don't know that I don't know. And that's kind of, I think that goes for all of us.
Yeah.
Savio, I really appreciate you spending time with me today.
Sure.
This was very eye-opening to me. I learned more about you. Every time we talk, I like you more.
Cool.
Tell people how they can get a hold of you. I'll put links to everything in the episode. But if someone wanted to work with you, who's been through maybe not cancer particularly, but some other health challenge.
Yeah. So they can go to my website. It's thehumanresolve.com. My book has its own website. It's called isurvivedcancer.co. On there, you'll see the book trailer. You see the link to the Amazon book page where you can buy it. It's going to be in bookstores in a few weeks. And then you can always find me on LinkedIn, Savio P. Clemente. And on social, I'm at The Human Resolve. I'm on Twitter at the same handle, Instagram at the same handle, Clubhouse at the same handle. So, yeah.
All right. Keep doing you, Savio.
Trying.
More people like you in this world. I love it.
Thanks,
and
Star.
Let people see. Back up a little bit. Let them see the cool. Now, who designed that?
So
that
there's no. So there's a designer called PRPS that I discovered, I don't know, over 10 years ago. And I just love the originality and the authenticity of what he creates. And it's always off kilter. And I love the off kilter.
I really like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
I really like that.
Appreciate
All right.
it. Cool.
Maybe we'll get a link to that, or maybe I will.
Okay. It's prpsjeans.com.
prpsjeans.com. All right. I love it. All right, Savio. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Star. Appreciate it.
You've been listening to The Art of Being Dar. Dar has been succeeding and thriving in Hollywood for over 30 years. And as you can tell, he has a lot of knowledge to share. If you'd like to inquire about speaking engagements with Dar or consulting for career, business, marketing, or to help in show business, go to dardixon.com. Till next time, remember, art is life, and life is art.